Shalom and good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcasting to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories. After preparing for 5 days, the United States, together with its French and British allies, fired a salvo of 105 cruise missiles at 8 separate targets belonging to President Bashar Assad's regime. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praises the Western military response to the Syrian chemical weapons attack, emphasizing the importance of an international position of zero tolerance for the use of non-conventional weapons. The IDF announces that over the weekend it had effectively destroyed a long and high-quality tunnel that penetrated Israeli territory from the Gaza Strip. After preparing for 5 days, the United States, together with its French and British allies, fired a salvo of 105 cruise missiles at 8 separate targets belonging to President Bashar Assad's regime. The targets included research and development facilities of what intelligence officials told TV7 are key components linked to the regime's chemical weapons capabilities. Pentagon officials noted following the attack, which took place on Friday night, that the chemical weapons capabilities of Damascus had been seriously damaged and set back for years, although Assad retained residual capability. Meanwhile, in a televised statement, U.S. President Donald Trump emphasized preparedness to sustain the response until Syria stopped its use of chemical weapons.
The combined American, British, and French response to these atrocities will integrate all instruments of our national power, military, economic, and diplomatic. We are prepared to sustain this response until the Syrian regime stops its use of prohibited chemical agents.
President Trump further asserted that the failure of Russia to fulfill its promise to guarantee the elimination of Syria's chemical weapons resulted in the forced military action by the West.
In 2013, President Putin and his government promised the world that they would guarantee the elimination of Syria's chemical weapons. Assad's recent attack and today's response are the direct result of Russia's failure to keep that promise. Russia must decide if it will continue down this dark path or if it will join with civilized nations as a force for stability and peace.
Washington, London, and Paris all released statements in which they claim to have proof of the Assad regime's responsibility for the alleged chemical weapons attack on April 7th that triggered the Western military response in Syria, proof Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov condemned as a ludicrous attempt to justify the strikes which were carried out.
Об этом нам говорят сейчас, оправдывая те удары, которые были нанесены. Кроме упоминаний СМИ и соцсетей и вот этого видео, достаточно смешного для специалистов, ничего более не приводится.
In a diplomatic bid against the US-led attack in Syria, Moscow called for an emergency meeting of the UN Security Council, urging its 15 members to condemn Washington, London, and Paris for what Russia called blatant aggression. While the Russian draft resolution of a condemnation has failed after only China and Bolivia voted in its favor, the Council's session provided a platform for the United States, France, and Britain to defend their military action as legal.
It is hard to believe that it is in line with the principles and purposes of the Charter to use or condone the use of chemical weapons. And in the United Kingdom's view, it cannot be illegal to use force to prevent the killing of such numbers of innocent people.
Monsieur le Président, permettez-moi d'insister sur ce point. Les frappes de la nuit dernière sont une réponse nécessaire au massacre chimique en Syrie. Elles sont une réponse au service du droit et de notre stratégie politique pour mettre un terme à la tragédie syrienne.
Meanwhile, in Jerusalem, the assessment by Israel's defense establishment is that the damage that was caused to the Assad regime's chemical weapons capabilities by the attack in Syria was minuscule, and that the Syrian army had sufficient time in advance to prepare for the Western attack. Israeli officials also believe that the Syrian air defense system successfully intercepted a number of the American missiles, as was reported by the Russian military. Nevertheless, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, during his weekly cabinet meeting, praised the Western response to the Syrian chemical weapons attack, emphasizing the importance of an international position of zero tolerance for the use of non-conventional weapons.
ישראל תומכת תמיכה מלאה בהחלטה של הנשיא טראמפ לפעול נגד השימוש בנשק קימי בסוריה. ישראל מברכת על הצטרפותן של ראש ממשלת בריטניה תרזה מיי ונשיא צרפת עמנואל מקרון לפעולה זו. אני שוחחתי אמש עם ראש ממשלת בריטניה תרזה מיי. אמרתי לה שהמסר הבינלאומי החשוב שעבר בתקיפה הוא אפס סובלנות לשימוש בנשק בלתי קונבנציונלי. אני הוספתי שהמדיניות הזאת צריכה לבוא לידי ביטוי גם במדינת יכולות גרעיניות של מדינות טרור וגופי טרור.
Prime Minister Netanyahu further stressed Jerusalem's position, in which it viewed the Islamic Republic of Iran, which backs the Assad regime, as the main element that is subverting the Middle East more than any.
וחזרתי ואמרתי שהגורם שמערער את המזרח התיכון יותר מכל הוא איראן, ושעל הנשיא אסד להבין שכשהוא מאפשר התבססות צבאית של איראן ושלוחותיה בסוריה, הוא מסכן את סוריה, והוא גם מסכן את יציבות האזור כולו.
The Israeli security establishment has been monitoring Iran as Israeli intelligence officials are trying to establish whether the Iranians intend to follow through on their threat to retaliate for the attack on the T4 airbase that was ascribed to Israel. The current Israeli assessment is that the Iranians will retaliate, but they haven't yet decided when or how. The Iranians suffered a significant blow which damaged their efforts to establish an airbase on Syrian soil, prompting threats by Iran and its allies, Syria and Hezbollah, of a powerful response that will exert a heavy price from the Jewish state.
أريد أن أقول للإسرائيليين عليهم أن يعرفوا هلا أنا كاتبهم من نقيهم بدق أو حقراهم عليهم أن يعرفوا أنهم ارتكبوا خطأ تاريخيا مو خطأ عادي وأقدموا على حماقة كبرى وأنهم أدخلوا أنفسهم في قتال مباشر مع إيران مع الجمهورية الإسلامية في إيران.
In response to the threats directed at Israel, a senior security official told TV7 that Israeli deterrence against the Islamic Republic and its allies was far more powerful than the general public was aware of. He noted that the statements made by senior Israeli officials that a major act of Iranian retaliation would result in the ousting of President Bashar Assad from power was keenly received in Tehran, given the fact that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman have backed up their warnings that Israel would prevent Iranian military entrenchment in Syria with action. As a result, the Iranians are contemplating the nature of their retaliation to avoid Israel to follow through on its threats. Now to Israel's southern frontier, where the IDF announced that over the weekend it had effectively destroyed a long and high-quality tunnel that penetrated Israeli territory. The tunnel, which ran westward from the Gaza Strip's Jabalia neighborhood, which is located in the northern part of the enclave, in the direction of the southern Israeli kibbutz of Kfar Aza, was said to be ready for immediate use. Israeli Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman wrote in response on his Twitter account that Israel began this week with an impressive intelligence and operational achievement upon the demolition of another terror tunnel, a tunnel that took millions of dollars to dig. Lieberman stressed that this is money that was buried in sand instead of being used to ease the plight of the residents of Gaza. The top Israeli official concluded his statement by urging the people of Gaza to realize that Hamas is wasting their money on tunnels to nowhere, while vowing Israel's continued resolve in locating and destroying all of the underground attack tunnels belonging to Islamist groups seeking to harm the Jewish state. Thank you for watching us. Keep praying for the peace of Israel and the peace of Jerusalem. Jonathan Hassan, have an Erev Tov and Shavua Tov. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time.